Should Tony Blair be stripped of his knighthood? Tony became Sir Tony in the New Year's honours list just under 2 years ago. Labour's longest-serving Prime Minister was made a Knight, Companion of the Most Noble Order of the Garter, which is the oldest and most senior British order of chivalry, don't you know? But yesterday, Labour Party MP Neale Hanvey called for Sir Tony to have his knighthood taken away because he took this country to war in Iraq. Hanvey said the honour was an insult to every single life lost during the war. And I'm delighted now to say I'm being joined by Neale Hanvey, who's coming on to Gbnews to tell us. Thank you for joining us, Neale. So I think your situation, your position is quite clear. But can you spell out, please, in black and white terms, why you think Sir Tony should just be plain old Tony Blair?
Well, first of all, before I say anything further, I want to pay tribute to Mark Curtis and Declassified UK, who researched the 900 pages of documents that were the bedrock of my contribution in Westminster Hall yesterday evening. And really, what they do is they paint a picture of a Prime Minister who was repeatedly warned that the prospectus that he was pursuing to enter conflict, both in 1998 and, as we know from Chilcot, in 2003, was against the advice of almost every law officer available to him, and that he didn't have the authority of the United Nations Security Council resolution to go forward into conflict, but he went ahead anyway. And we know the catastrophic loss of life that has been the result of that first campaign and the consequences there forward since 1998. They have run into hundreds of thousands of lives lost. And there have been, a significant number of British forces who died in the theatre of war, but also many others, as I mentioned yesterday in my speech, whose lives were shattered after those conflicts and are attributable entirely to the conflicts that were engaged in against legal advice and without international legal authority. And so it seems utterly absurd that a Prime Minister who took the UK into conflict on 2 occasions with such disastrous consequences, not just then, but also the repercussions that echo down through the decades since, should be recognised and rewarded with a knighthood. As I said, this rests on the work of Declassified UK, but I am the privileged individual out of so many others up and down the countries of the United Kingdom who had the opportunity to take that into Parliament and to make that case. And I've had a whole host of messages in my inbox today thanking me for giving voice to concerns that people have shared with me from the days when we marched against the war before it started, and still do not feel that justice has been served on the perpetrator of what many consider to be war crimes.
OK, Neale, of course, after the Chilcot inquiry, Tony Blair said, I did not mislead the country. I made the decision in good faith, and I believe it is better we took that decision. I acknowledge the mistakes and accept responsibility for them. What I cannot and will not do is say we took the wrong decision, and this report makes it clear there were no lies, there was no deceit. Obviously, people contest that, and you being one of them. Despite all of that body of evidence, then, why do you think Blair was knighted? A lot of people in our poll today, Neale, are saying, why did he even get a knighthood in the first place?
Well, I think that I share that confusion with many people from every political persuasion, I have to say, that this just seems anathema to recognising a contribution to the efforts of the country when as I said, he prosecuted 2 illegal wars. Now, whether he feels it's right or wrong, or whether he felt that he made the right judgment call or not, is quite, as far as I'm concerned, a moot point. It's about legality. It's about, did he put service personnel in harm's way? And one of the points that I advanced last night was that he put them in a position where they could be open to criminal prosecution because they were acting in an unlawful war. So there are, whether he feels that he can assuage any sense of guilt with being convinced that the decision he made was the right one or not, that is not really the point here. It's a point of law. It's a point of whether he put service personnel in harm's way, and it's about the consequences of those conflicts. No one could make a convincing argument that Iraq is a more safe place today, and no one can make the argument that the region is a safer place today. Those conflicts have brought disaster to the region and have made the world a less safe place. And I can't fathom how anyone can conceive a reason why that is deserving of a knighthood.
OK, Neale Hanvey, Albert Party MP, you've made your position very clear. Thank you for joining us on Gbnews this afternoon. Now, all afternoon, as I said, we've been running a poll today on whether Sir Tony Blair should be stripped of his knighthood. And the result is now in. And I can reveal that a whopping 87.6% of you agree with Neale, and they say yes, Sir Tony Blair should be stripped of his knighthood. Thanks to all of you who voted, and thanks for all of your comments. There were thousands and thousands of comments. Thank you for participating.